Morning to you, Vinny.
Morning, how are we doing?
Good, thanks. Good. We've you've been getting stuck into City v Chelsea tomorrow night. We're sort of thinking about it here and trying to figure out exactly which way it's going to go. Even reading some of the papers this morning, it's a lot of people still tipping up City for it, and they are favourites, obviously. Is it wrong though, maybe as a kicking off point, and take us off where you want after this? Is it wrong to discount the recent results between the two of them? Or how do you know what's important from the last 2 or 3 games between City v Chelsea? What to factor in and what to discount?
Yeah, it's an interesting one. I think what we have is you have a match of two of the very best tactically in the game come up against each other in Tuchel and Pep Guardiola. For me, a couple of weeks ago, I think there's no doubt City in terms of the form were favourites. I still think they are going into the game, but the last couple of games haven't been perfect for City in terms of the preparation, and there'd be a small little seed of doubt in their mind. But they haven't played in both of them games, and this is where it gets sort of, for want of better, not technical. Like, everyone is starting to understand the game now, thankfully, in terms of systems. But he played with a number 9 in the FA Cup semi-final, and he played 3-5-2 in the league game. And I think he was searching for something against Chelsea, because ultimately I think Chelsea tactically are the one team that caused them problems this year. Paris Saint-Germain done it a little bit in the first half. So I think Pep Guardiola is concerned about what Chelsea do in terms of their shape and their system. Chelsea play 3-4-2-1, and again, with 2 number 10s. Sometimes people say, they play 3-4-3 and all of this. But no, they play with 2 number 10s is effectively the key. And that causes Man City a huge amount of problems. Yeah. And what's refreshing about Tuchel is that he's tactically challenging Pep Guardiola, and that's what we want to see. So if City were playing Liverpool on Saturday, I think you'd know the team and you'd know how Man City are going to play. I think there's no guarantee which way City are going to play on Saturday in terms of their own shape. So that's why it's sort of fascinating to see how it all plays out tactically.
Why do 2 number 10s cause Manchester City problems?
Because of, well, I suppose, first of all, most teams that come up against Man City on a weekly basis respect them so much that they drop off, let them have it. City play out with a back 3. Sometimes we've seen Cancelo going into that midfield position. City dominate the ball. If we go back to the Chelsea game, that was under Lampard, so it's completely different. We done the game actually live, and it was fascinating to see. That was the first time we seen City really with that false number 9, and that was the day. And we said it live on air. We said it after it. That was the day we felt, wow, City are coming back to their very best. And they did, and they went on and walked the league. So, but the difference is very few managers go up against Pep Guardiola and actually challenge him and try and beat him. They all try, to be honest with you, not all, most of them try and be defensive. So they come up, and whether it's 5 at the back, 4 in front of them, let City have it. So this is different. So the 2 number 10s of Mount and Pulisic have caused them huge problems in terms of when City leave the full-back areas, or by and large, in the new system that Pep has developed, he only has one number 6 or defensive midfielder, and the 2 number 10s of Mount and Pulisic will cause them huge problems. So that's where Pep has a big headache on his hands ahead of the game in the weekend.
Richard Dunn makes the point in one of the papers this morning, in the Herald, about City's shortcomings over the last few years. You've kind of hinted at it there as well, Vinny, about sort of maybe getting too wound up by some of the opposition that they're playing. So, like, with that in mind, what you've touched on it already in terms of formation and stuff like that. What does Pep do in terms of sticking or twist here? Is he learn the lessons of the last 2 or 3 games, and 2 games particularly, and stick with what he knows best, or shape up to match that Chelsea team? Or how do you see that panning out?
Well, to be honest, I don't know. That's the fascinating part, because he played in the league game. He played sort of three at the back. Now, people like Ake was playing and Laporte, they won't start. But I think he was searching for something. So he is, I think there is something in a seed of doubt in his mind about this Chelsea team. And I suppose if you look at Chelsea first, and I put together sort of I found two little sort of diagrams as such of Chelsea setup. And if we stick them, because we can lose people by talking 3-5-2 and different systems. But Chelsea, obviously, in the dark blue, play with the 3-4, and number 19 and 22 is Mount and Pulisic. Okay, and I suspect Timo Werner will play up front, and his pace down the sides of them will cause them problems. So that sort of setup of Chelsea with the two number 10s we just spoke about causes them problems, and he looks City without the ball play in that 4-4-2 system, and then when they have it, it's the false nine with Foden, De Bruyne, all of these people turning up in different areas, but that Chelsea team with the ball is causing him problems that he has to react off it. Okay, so that's the way he'd prefer to play. That's the way he's won the league. That's how he's got to the final, and that's why there will be a seed of doubt in his mind. And if you move on to the next slide and to go on to your question of where City are, that's generally how they play of late. It's three at the back, number 2 being Kyle Walker. I think he'll play. Cancelo's form hasn't been that good. Gundogan in midfield with probably Fernandinho, and at different stages to get that midfielder to make the back three. Sometimes you see John Stones in the sort of wide area. But so when they have the ball here, they're very good. Chelsea will go into that, Mount will drop into midfield, and I think they'd be very good when they do that. But I think he'll be concerned when he doesn't have the ball. So that's where his challenge is. So it's a real tactical battle between the two of them. And I think if Pep sticks to his guns, he'll play the way that's on screen. Stones on the ball, as I said, it could be Zinchenko could go into midfield, and you'll find Gundogan that we've seen at different stages, or even Kyle Walker goes into that central midfield area, and he'll dominate the ball against most teams. And I think with the ball, that's what he'd want to do. That's exactly how he'd want to play, how his team will play. And he can do that with a back three, and he can change his system. And that's the great big risk for Pep. Okay, that's the great big risk. So that's where the challenges lie for him. He'll want to play. He'll want to play that way. So listen, it's just a fascinating setup in terms of Tuchel giving him headaches.
And just, we might lash up that Man City graphic again just for 1 second. The looking at Gundogan particularly, and we are going back now to January in that game that you mentioned there, but like the hay that he made that day coming from that position where you have De Bruyne and Silva maybe going in opposite directions to clear a path for him almost. Is that a thing that, like, look, a different manager, we've spoken about maybe slightly weakened teams and stuff like that, but is that system geared towards getting the best out of somebody like a Gundogan, like that box-to-box player who can get forward and get a goal like he got that day?
Yeah, and again, that's where we've spoken about so many different teams here. Liverpool, a lot of teams, the modern teams, are building up in a back three. Doesn't mean they start with three, but they build up in a back three. So that allows that little bit of freedom for Gundogan to arrive, as you said, in the box. His goal-scoring run around that time transformed the team into a championship-winning team. Remember where they were coming from, where everybody had written this City team off. So yeah, that's crucial. But remember, what's important about that is the movement of Foden turning up. Sometimes he's centre forward, sometimes he plays in that left wing position. Bernardo Silva and Mahrez are both wide right, and De Bruyne will turn up at different stages in different areas. So it's very difficult for most teams to defend against that. But I think Chelsea's setup probably suits that, because when they drop off Mount, it means Jorginho has that freedom to protect in front of the back three. So it's fascinating. But I think what City will look to do is, we've seen Rudiger and Azpilicueta being brave and going in after people. So don't be surprised if you see an incident where, say, Zinchenko goes in behind because Azpilicueta has gone in after Kevin De Bruyne or a Phil Foden and left space in behind him. So that's where City will look to exploit them. But as I keep saying, City, I want City to win the game. I think this is an opportunity to confirm their greatness and Pep's greatness, in terms of, not that Pep's greatness in question, but I mean this team. And I love when the great teams win trophies. When Manchester United won the treble, or with different teams over the years, I hope they win. But Chelsea and the two number 10s will definitely cause City problems, and it is set up to be a bit of a tactical masterclass from the two of them. So I don't know I know Chelsea's style of play, and I know who's going to play more or less. You know, you can have James in different positions. You can have Aspilicueta, Ziyech, Havertz could play, but we know what Chelsea are going to do. We just don't know what City are going to do yet. And does Pep overthink it and make a mess of it, as we've seen once or twice before?
Yeah, and we've also seen the opposite, right? Like it can be the big day, come at the man, and all that sort of stuff. With all that in mind, who it feels like you're leaning like everybody else a bit to City, and not discounting, but disregarding almost the previous two results.
Yeah, I just think that two things. When you look at even Manchester United, what they haven't been able to do is their form. You can't turn it off for a couple of weeks. And Chelsea have fallen into the Champions League by default because of what Leicester have done, probably. And their results haven't been that good over the last couple of weeks. That would be a concern. Now, City also switched off a little bit after winning the league, and that's what you do sometimes when you win a league. But they came back, and I think they beat Everton. Was a 5-0 the other day. I think that will send a great message in the club. But I'd be worried about Chelsea's form over the last couple of weeks. But at the same time, they have a chance because of Tuchel. They have a real chance of causing City massive problems. And when you talk about the very top games, we can have a hunch. I can have a hunch that I really think City are the best team this year, etc. in Europe. They'll go on and win the game. But we're talking about Mason Mount, Pulisic, Timo Werner, somebody, one little mistake or one bit of great play, and they're 1-0 up, and that's what happens at the highest level. It's very, very difficult to call. I would say it's a 60-40 in favour of City, but I would say a month or two ago, we were probably talking about, if you told this was the final, it would have been 80-20. I think Tuchel and his tactical know-how has really closed the gap, and we've a real battle on our hands in the final.
Yeah, we'll see how it goes. Your point about the bit of individual brilliance is every top analyst get out clause, Vinny, for listen, well, you can't legislate for a moment of magic.
Yeah, like you have to. Mason Mount is that good. Him, Phil Foden could have played for the great Barcelona team under Pep. So you can't stop something like that happen.
Yeah.
A corner, Silva's brilliant from attacking corner, so that could change games, little moments like that. So I'm taking that get out clause. Yeah.
We'll give it to you. A couple of quick hits on some speculation this morning. Maurizio Pochettino to Tottenham. I've been playing with him this morning. Don't do it. That it's a major step down for a manager of his ambitions. What's your thought on that?
I don't know whether that's a setup or not, but Pochettino going back. Listen, I think it doesn't. It's a difficult job at Paris Saint-Germain. I think he it doesn't surprise me he's being linked back to the club. It doesn't surprise me. It wouldn't surprise me he went back. I'd like to think
bonkers move for him though, surely, Vinny, at this point of his career.
Yeah, but it's okay for us all as analysts to say that, okay? But you don't know the affection people have for certain clubs, the link to living in London, his family, all of that stuff. I mean, is he going to be offered a Real Madrid job? If he was offered that job, that's bonkers as well in terms of the rebuild that's needed there. By and large, managers don't get jobs unless something has gone wrong at a club. So, yes, you could question that squad. Is it good enough for Spurs and that? And I understand that. But it wasn't that long ago that they were sitting top of the league or they were in Champions League spots. Yes, there's a rebuild needed at Spurs, but I think it's I think it's too easy to say, why would you go back there? It's still one of the top jobs in European football.
You think?
Yeah, absolutely. Just because, like, look at the stadium, look at the infrastructure around that club, look at the players they have. Yes, they're short of a couple of players, absolutely. But we can't link Dele Alli to Paris Saint-Germain and then say, well, Dele Alli's not good enough. For example, the right manager, the right people in the club, anything can happen.
Which is a more likely reunion, Vinny? Mauricio Pochettino and Tottenham, or Vinny Perth and Dundalk?
There was the setup. I seen it coming. Listen, I've been a bit like Pochettino. I haven't got my hair cut until I get a job. Okay, so he said the same thing. No, I suppose on a serious note, a bit like Pochettino. Look, we all have a grower for a certain club. To be honest, I've been like him. I haven't slagged off Dundalk since I've left. I've been very consistent. I've obviously had my own hurt personally, and I've spoken to people personally about it. But in the media, I think I've said very little other than there was a difference of opinion in terms of the future of the club. I could sit here and say, wasn't I right? But I think there's been that much bad press around Dundalk. I think there's been that much bad press around the players that I'm hurting for them players. People like Brian Gartland, Chris Shields, I could list a whole lot of them, Pat Hoban. There's no way them players are happy with where they are at the moment. A lot of pride is hurt in that club. So if you're a manager, and particularly one in Ireland, which I've found, it's very difficult to get, or a coach, to get work in this country. So one of the top jobs in the country comes available, you'll consider it. But it's nothing more than that at the moment. And look, newspapers find different stories. We all do it. It's part of life. But
is that a come and get me, please, Vinny? Trying to read between the lines there.
No, it's not, because I don't need to do that. I have a relationship with people within the club that I don't need to make a come and get me play. Listen, and if I sound big-headed, I'm sorry, but like in the last 8 years, I've 5 league titles, 2 FAI Cups, 2 League Cups, over 40 European games of experience. So clubs in Ireland, or clubs like Dundalk, should be interested in someone like Vinny Perth. But that doesn't mean I'm going to get any job. And I'm actively looking for work in and outside of football. I'm very close to a couple of projects other than Dundalk. Spoken to other clubs only this week outside of Ireland. So it's a long-winded answer of saying to you, I just don't know. There's nothing imminent or nothing about to happen. And I wouldn't imagine I'm on any shortlist at the moment, because my understanding is there isn't really one at the moment.
Okay. Well, look, again, we will keep a watching brief on that. Really enjoyed your analysis earlier as well. Thanks a million.
Thanks a lot, lads, and enjoy the weekend, and the final should be interesting.
Enjoy the football. Yeah, thanks a million, Vinny Perth. As always, great stuff there, getting stuck into Chelsea City and plenty more as well. It is 8:10. It's Friday morning. We've got a jam-packed show still to come right here on OTB AM.